Hey guys, it's Matt. It was surprising to me how serious, not serious, like John McEnroe would put forth their main astrology. Just in general, using a regular word, how serious people took the Hobo code exercise. Now, I wasn't completely joking. We have a serious. Well, here it is again. It's the same word. We have a very severe censorship problem, obviously. So the idea of getting to people to think that if you hear a certain code, having your mind be able to interpret it or to on the fly say, oh, that's what he's saying, and then move on, kind of retraining the mind. People took it too seriously. Matt, we're not going to be able to relearn a whole language and go to another platform and just speak truth, you dumb son of a bitch. I mean, all this but most people had fun with it. But to the amount of serious comments, there it is again. Oh, he dropped that 3 times. He must be Illuminati. Are you kidding? Guys, sometimes we all just need a frigging laugh. Again, I was being, what's another word? I need the synonyms right in front of me. I was being very sincere about the fact that we need some alternative codes to manipulate and navigate through the Ministry of Information. Of course we do. But it was generally a fun exercise based on what was happening in the horrifically strange movie with some really great scenes under the Silver Lake. So relax. Let's just have some fun with this. All right? And some of these I'm going to use. I'm going to use in videos going forward. So, but I'm not going to start talking in code. Relax. You get a kick out of this. You really will. We need a laugh once in a while. Now, whenever, guys, I'm going to have you, by the way, I used, most of these aren't even mine. People came forth with some great suggestions, and there were multiple suggestions for each one. People emailed me, and I just had to pick what I thought was the best, but also kind of funny. And sorry if we didn't use yours, because I know people spent a lot of time via emails putting some stuff together, and I do appreciate that. So we always use the Ferris Bueller when I can't say the name. Like, obviously, I can say the anniversary of something that just happened a few days ago. We all know what we're talking about. So if not, I'll use the Ferris Bueller. I'll say blank hook. Anyone? And you'll say it in your head. See, I can't say it. That's the whole point. I can't say these names. So to make this funny or at all enjoyable, as we do reconfigure our brains to be able to use a hobo code when we need to going forward, because we won't be able to talk per the 1984 Ministry of Information directives, you'll need to say the name in your head, and then I'll say what we came up with. So for the first one, you have to say it in your head. Nozar. Zar wants to get on my lap every time I start. Nozar. Very professional production here. So Bueller, blank, blank economics, voodoo economics, blank hook. So say it in your name. Say it in your mind. I won't say it. Say it in your mind, the name right now. That's called Mandy the Hooker. Another one, the old version is Captain, El Capitan Hook, Captain Hook. So that's number one. The event a few days ago, the anniversary event, is, of course, the easy one is to say 7-Eleven is a part-time job, or just 7-Eleven. I like the 7-Eleven is a part-time job. It is for most people. You could call it, like Canada has Boxing Day. You could call it Box Cutter Day. Or you could call it... what was it? Gemini Brothers birthday. Gemini the twins. But I don't know if what happened on that day, their astrology that they bow down to has to do with Gemini. But nevertheless, it was appropriate. Now, I can't say, remember that it was a word like when you eat a bunch of cake, a blank event like cake, but it's another letter. I can't even say that probably, so we'll have to say it's awake. Like a wake, something that happens just before a funeral, per some religions in people's homes. We'll call it a wake event. Not a Waco event, a wake event, like what happened in Florida. So I have to call it wake, okay? Let's keep going. Now, that thing that happened right during World War II, that nobody can talk about on any platform at all, I called it, per the game of polo, I called it, first of all, say the name right now in your head. What am I talking about? The blank. You have to do it this way or it won't come out right. I called it Polo Costly, but somebody came and said, say the name, asshole boss. I don't know why it works. You could, instead of the blank, say it, it's the asshole boss. It kind of works. I'm sticking with it. SpaceX, somebody came up with, is pissed off X. Pissed off X. I like it. A wake, and I don't think I can say this word. You know what's going on now? The Pan American Games, but something related to the sea. Bueller, blank. I know this is driving people crazy, but it's funny for others. Blank economics. So it's the wake, pan. You know what's going on now. They call it, when we get out of the pan blank, say the word. That's a deadly Remick. Which is really kind of, the poor Lee Remick died in her Brentwood home of like some sort of cancer. So but it's just, we're going to go with it. A fake pan blank is a deadly Remick. Anytime you talk about the JFK assassination, you just call it a Debbie Does Dallas. It's a Debbie. Yeah. Oh yeah. And the Debbie Does Dallas, when when Lee Harvey did the event supposedly in the place where he was supposedly working, wasn't he fortunate that the only person that wanted JFK dead was old Lee Harvey, and JFK just happened to be driving by his workplace in a convertible, no less. So that's a Debbie Does Dallas event. I still like my Vatican. Don't call me Francis. Don't call me Francis. We'll stick with that. A driving event where people are just driven over in whatever country, in Charleston or Belgium or whatever. That's we're sticking with a roadkill on that. That's roadkill. Of course, all wake. Oh, speaking of wake, the people that say they're woke. See, they'll just try to hijack anything. We talk about being awake, so then they hijack that with this woke movement. And they're, if you actually consider yourself woke seriously, you're of course, the way the inverted reality works, is the opposite of being awake to anything. So we'll call it not woke, but poked. You're poked in the eye. That's basically what anybody woke is. Poked in the eye. All right. So we'll stick with that. And is there anything else on this page here? Well, we'll just take a break from the Hobo list. My next one is very interesting, but let's take a break. And somebody mentioned, Matt, instead of when setting up the word, you could, Bueller, blank economics, you can use baby talk. You can use, always just Bill Gatesy, waitsy, wowsy, yowsy. Just put the Y on the end of everything. Like the, if there's one here, the Pulsey, Wolsey, Orlando, Eventi, Wency. You just baby talk it if you have to. And I like the blank economics thing a little bit better, but that is a way we could go in lieu of Pig Latin or something else. So getting back to the list, it's here. The event that happens in the Grove, people, it starts with a B, blank, Grove. You could just call it Alex's Trees. Alex's Trees. We'll go with it. And again, I didn't come up with these. I mean, a few I did, but most people. Somebody said, when you talk about the level plane Earth, I don't know if I can say that anymore, but picture it in your head, then you could call it Fifi. I don't understand that, but I like it because I have a cat named Fifi in the other room. So we're going to go with that. When you want to talk about like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, or just Bill and Melinda Gates in general, and you want to tie him to the sea and the Jacksonation strategies that are going to go on soon, we probably can't say the name of those two people anymore per the Ministry of Information Monitoring. So I like what somebody came up with. It's Belinda and Melvin Gates. It's just, you just change it slightly, but Melvin I like it. Bill should actually legally adopt Melvin. So Bill and Melvin Gates. I like it. Of course, the V, the big V, the big jab that's coming around the corner when she comes. That's going to be, it's blank Nation, Janet Jackson Nation. You could Janet Jackson Nation, but I'm going to stick with Jackson Nation, the Jackson Nation from Action Jackson. I prefer the Carl Weathers over the fake Janet Jackson, who couldn't dance, who tried to be like Michael, but she was so rigid in her dance choreography that it came off kind of bad, although probably a better dancer than me. What happened, Disney World has those two places. One is in Florida in the city that's with the O, that event, remember the Bang event? Somebody came up with this, the Legolas event. The Legolas. Legolas, I guess, was the elf name in Lord of the Rings. Does it work? Not really, but I like it. The Legolas event. I don't know. I'm just going to go with it. I don't even understand the connection. I just like it. The event in the gambling town, people were not putting down their drinks. The drinks were probably $10 to $12 each, so why would you put them down in the midst of machine gun fire? That's just stays in Vegas. The bot's fine with that. It stays in Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, and then you can talk a little bit about the event. The bot's you'll just think you're recounting sexual escapades when you're out there. Hopefully not staying in the Luxor Hotel, the Big Pyramid. Trump is a Fanta can. Trump is a Fanta can. Okay. That works. D.C. is that phallus place. Washington, D.C. That phallus place. I like it. All right, let's continue. Remember what I got banned for? It was at class, blank, speech, like something wants to mate with something to start life in the universe. A protein jumped on the back of an amino acid and mated with it. It's mate, but that other word, speech, say it in your mind, what it really is. That's pillow talk. That's now called pillow talk. Again, I don't get it either, but I see it. I like it. I just wrote it down and said, we're going with that. Pillow talk. A NASA event, not necessarily associated with SpaceX or landing on the barges. What are the friendly barge names again? It's please follow the directions, and hello, you must be kidding, or Phil Collins, hello, I must be going, or something. Whenever there's a cutesy thing associated with what's supposed to be the most riskiest endeavor one human has ever undertaken, whenever they use cutesy little names, then it's definitely a wake. It's a wake. It ain't real. But a NASA event, whether affiliated with the fraud, lone scum or not, is a buzzed cauldron. It's a little different from what I came up with. It's a buzzed cauldron because the person said clearly, and they were right, this is a spell. It's some sort of a spell. You get the cauldron in there, Matt. Love it. It's a buzzed cauldron. The City of London, I think we can still say that without worrying about the censorship. Just the City of London. The City of London inside London. There's a little autonomous zone inside of London that's not subject to any government or anything like that. Most people, of course, know what I'm talking about. One of the three. City of London is a Cockney market. I think it just meant Cockney market. No Cockney market. Like it. Okay. Okay. Social. Oh, what's going? I can't say it because the bot will think I'm talking about a certain thing. But blank. Anyone blank distancing. Social. Say the word. It's now socialist distancing. You're not socialist distancing, sir. What? You're not socialist distancing, sir. Please back up 3 feet. Okay. What did you say? This is how you throw people off. The WTC, the towers themselves, I came up with this one, the erection set. Erector set. Anyway, did I miss any? And there are others that gave me some, 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven was a part-time job. Oh, boy. So, guys, relax. We're not just going to start adopting this weird code, Pig Latin. Somebody proposed Ebonics. It's okay. What this does, if nothing else, is if you're watching a video or one of my videos and I just throw out something weird, like somebody stumbling upon a recent video of mine where I say the action Jacksonation, your mind's kind of set up to understand or interpret that, and then move on, and without losing the train of thought. That's all. Most of these, you don't have to memorize these. I'm not going to start using all of these. I'll keep it out, and if it comes up, most of these, I doubt I'll ever talk about half of them. But it's good to have the list. And again, this is mostly a fun exercise. I hope you had a few laughs. Now, guys, one last thing. All right, one last thing. Let me pause this and reorganize my thoughts, guys. The second thing I wanted to talk about is the video I did that got banned on the anniversary date on a few days back. I said I'd never do it again, and I'm going to cover this, but I'm not going to do it again because there's a video that was on national or I guess it's 2 hours that's on every year that was on the National Geographic. I've seen it many times. I recorded it and watched it again with our current set of eyes. It's called 9:10, The Final Hours. Now, it used to be on YouTube. It doesn't seem to be anymore. It seems like if you put in 9:10, The Final Hours, YouTube asks you can buy it or rent it for $3 or something like that. It doesn't seem to be out there just for free anymore. And it's probably not for everybody to watch it because I'm going to cover the elements in it. I'm not covering, again, I'm not breaking my promise I'm not covering the day itself like I did for almost 2 hours. I won't probably do that ever again. But this video is like nothing I've ever seen before. It's a window into reality itself. All right, I'm just going to tell you what I'm going to do, then I'll talk a little bit about the video. You don't need to watch it. I will have each segment, maybe I'll show a few seconds, try to get away with that, and then the still frame. In other words, if there's a 2-hour documentary on the National Geographic Channel about 9:10, the day before, it's called The Final Hours, but it's about the day before, the day leading up to, the night of, the morning of, what happened the day before with the mayoral race. There's nothing I've ever seen that's more of a window into creepy reality than this. Nothing. Now, if you watched it, most people listening to this would watch it. You'd pick up 10 to 15 things. Like, that guy just said ground zero. And what's he talking about ground zero before? That event wasn't even popular before. So you'll pick up 10 to 15 things. There's 50 things at least, if not closer to 100, depending on how you break it down. It is so creepy but you'll see things you just won't notice. But I'm going to pause it and I'm going to say, look what they did here. And it's people that in the past, all we would do is explain it away as, oh, that person was paid to say that. I'm not so sure anymore. That is how creepy the reality is. So I'm going to record it in a dark room from 10 feet away, and it'll be small, and hopefully, if I play little tiny clips, they'll let me get away with it. I just have to cover it. There's so many things, and it's not predictive programming or anything like that, because it was done, years after the day, of course. But I'll give you an example, and I've talked about this before, but it's just so fascinating. The opening scene, or one of the opening scenes, I think this scene is actually on YouTube, I believe. Bartender, who was the Windows on the World head bartender, that's the top of the North. He is just, to introduce who this guy is. He's now at a new bar called The Writing Room, and he's talking about a cocktail he's making. And obviously what the documentary is going to be about, the erection set. He says, oh, this cocktail here, it's two spirits dancing together. And he puts the bottle of tequila down, and if you pause it, or it's hard to make out, but if you see it in a certain frame, the bottle of tequila is 2 twin peaks. Right. So you're going to do a 2-hour documentary on the big day, and just start out friendly, introducing this bartender, and he's going to start out talking about 2 spirits dancing together. Puts the bottle down, and it's 2 twin peaks, 2 twin erection sets on the bottle. But mountains. But I mean, really, But then it's just littered with things like that. littered. Then they talked to the DJ, and I'm sure she really worked there. It's not. That's what I'm saying. How did they do all this? It's a window into how reality itself works. This 9-10, the final hours, and for most people, it's not going to be worth sitting down for 2 hours. It's not very good. I'll just pull the things out, and you'll probably miss. I've seen it so many times over the years. But the DJ's name I think her name is Jill Janis. I mean, if you people are like, well, what are you saying, Matt? Well, the significance of Janis, the heads on both sides, the duality. Jill Janis was up there. I was up there years ago, and she was the DJ up there. I'm not saying it's faked. This stuff is easily, but how do they do that? How do they work in the DJ's name is Jill Janis? Everything has significance. Everything is creepy in this 2 hour, but it seems very benign. You could show it to your neighbor, and they'd be like, oh, that's interesting what happened the day before. They catch none of it. And it's just riddled with this stuff. And I don't want to say too much about it because I'll cover it, even have to cover it with little tiny thumbnails. But the creepiest part, without a doubt, is, again, they're showing what happened on the 10th. There's a stage set up in a dance recital. They have a stage set up in the promenade area between the towers. And they talk to the woman who was in the recital. And just feel the dark energy. Although you give it to the person down your cul-de-sac, they'll be like, "That's a friendly, nice old woman. She just was doing a dance recital." She's wearing, I think, the all black. The person she's rehearsing with, the dance is in all white. It's just the two of them on stage. Again, they're not performing. It's a recital for something that will come. She said, "Oh, we had to stop the recital because the storm came in." Well, did she create the storm? Yeah, probably. She's some kind of dark operator. You can just feel it. Now, even if you didn't feel it, if you don't, whatever, she seems like a friendly old woman. She's in the all black, her partner's in the all white, doing a very ritualistic type. One goes through the other, combined, just the two of them on stage. You can't hear any music. It's a recital or a walkthrough. It's absolutely related to the ritual of what would be coming, with absolute understanding of what would be coming. There's just no question about it. Even it's called like, I don't know, a Twilight Under the Stars recital or something. But then you get into things, just the common sense of it, that things that we'll start with the way we use our minds that others don't. The first thing I thought when I saw it for the fifth time, when you see it more and more sets of eyes, then you start to pick up so much. Why is it even being recorded? Why is it being recorded from a football field away? It's just a walkthrough. See, it's all by design. Well, Matt, that's the dark figure that brought on the storm. Who knows? Maybe, but it doesn't. It's just to actually think. There's at least a subset of people that had absolute foreknowledge of what was going to happen, and to be underneath both of them, both towers, the day before, the night before the big storm, which they knew was coming in, no question. The hurricanes offshore to do the ritual dance. I mean, it's so creepy, but it's not. This is 100%. I mean, there's just. Well, Matt, don't you think it could have been a coincidence that they just were doing? Oh yeah. This really. I'll show you a few clips of it when I can. I'll take the video camera down and I'll just film some of it, and it'll be horribly grainy, and I'll just do it like that. Hopefully I can get away with it, but it's just riddled with things like that, and I'm going to cover it. And if it's banned, it's banned. But and it is not. Matt, didn't you say you're not going to cover it anymore? Well, no. This is a study into the underlying fabric of reality itself. There's nothing as creepy, but as 9-10, the final hours. But most people, even in this community, if you watch it, you're going to be like, Matt, what is the big deal with all? You're going to watch it and go, this is just boring. Like, so for most people, just wait till I break it down. Don't even bother unless it fascinates you, and you have to see it beforehand. If you do, know there's not almost one scene that's just not fascinating. For example, I'll just give you one other example. You'll be watching a boring part of it, and I alluded to in the video a few back, the baggage handler. They talked to one of the baggage handlers at Boston, and he's like,
Yeah, I remember seeing the name on the bag. It said M-A-T-T-A, M-A-T-T-A. I remember seeing the name.
And you're watching, most people watch it's like, yeah, this is boring part of this. But if you stop and think about it, it's fascinating. Like, well, obviously, do you realize there's no chance that any baggage handler is going to remember seeing any name on any particular bag doing their daily routine, their daily task before the event? They're not going to be looking for anything. No bag's going to have any significance. You're not going to remember it. Well, Matt, and what gets fascinating is Matt, obviously, the person's just, whether they're the real baggage handler or not, they're just paid to say that for this documentary. And here's where it gets fascinating. Okay, that used to be our default, but that, to me, the more I think of it, is a fish in a fish tank example. When you watch some of these people, unlike some of these clowns at the, what do we call the event in Florida? The Legolas event. Unlike some of the clowns in the Legolas event that were true clowns. I mean, some of the stupidest human beings you'll ever come across said they were involved in that event. These people actually really, they seem like they really believe what they're saying. And they likely do. Not just actors. Somehow the reality pulls this off in ways fish in a fish tank we just can't comprehend. And it's absolutely fascinating. So it's not as, I'm just saying, it's not as simple to say, yeah, guy, the baggage handler said,
yeah, I remember the bag. It said, I remember it said M-A-T-A.
Yeah, oh, well, Matt, obviously nobody would remember. First of all, it's fascinating that millions of people can watch that documentary. And now there's tens of millions of people have seen it over the last 5 or 10 years. And not one person that's in the regular community, outside of our community, will ever stop and say, there's no possible way you could have remembered that. That's Wake. Not Waco, it's Waco. No, it's Wake. That's the F. That's Wake. That could never happen. But nobody catches that. They just remember, and they all remember that woman. The same woman comes out. I've talked about her several times. She's in it. She was, I guess she was taking a puddle jumper in Portland, Maine, at 5:15 in the morning, just like the crew, to get down to Boston to make their 30-minute O.J. Simpson connection. And she says,
I remember what they were wearing. Again, he stepped out looking like Long Duck Dong. He had the red Argyle sweater with the green pants and the blue Chuck Taylor shoes. No, he's not retarded. But he just stood there and he looked out over the plains. He just stood there ominously. And a cumulonimbus storm cloud arose just above his head, but only covering his body, nothing else. It was a beautiful day other than the cumulonimbus cloud that just hovered over him, and he looked out over the plains. He didn't say that, but he did. So nobody would remember that. Tell me about think of all the times you've picked somebody up at the airport or dropped off. Now tell me about the people that were around you at the airport. Tell me about them. Of course, nobody would remember anything. But nobody. But this is just. There's a lot. It's not. This isn't the most fascinating thing, guys. But just that we say there's no possible way she remember his Long Duck Dong Argyle sweater and what he was wearing and how he looked, and why would you even? There's no reason to suspect. There's nothing that's happened yet. So we immediately see this. This is impossible, and it's just fascinating. It proves download. It proves people are just being reset on a new frequency. But other than that, it gets 100 times more fascinating because I'm starting to think or believe a lot of these people, they're not just paid $5 to say this. It's not always as simple as our fish in a fish tank example. Fish in a fish tank can't discuss the Pacific Ocean a mile down the road. They can't. They can't comprehend it. We're kind of in the same situation. I'm starting to think this woman actually somehow had that experience. No, I don't believe that guy's a fiction, in my opinion. M-A-T-T-A.
He's not real, but I don't know how they do it, but it's fascinating how they do it. Fascinating. I'll talk more about it later. Thanks, guys.